First of all, could you please introduce yourself so that everyone have an idea what you're doing with Heroes of the Storm?
Sure. My name is Kaeo Milker. I'm a senior game producer at Blizzard, and I'm the production lead for Heroes of the Storm.
Okay, great. So how long are you at Blizzard and what did you do at Blizzard before you started producing Heroes?
That is a long story. So I've been at Blizzard for 13 years. I originally started out in quality assurance as a game tester. I then was the recruiter for Blizzard. I was the facilities manager for Blizzard. I ultimately became an associate producer back in around the launch of World of Warcraft, and I did things like built the strategy guide for World of Warcraft, and then I joined Team 1, which is where I am today. And I was a producer for StarCraft 2, for Wings of Liberty, Heart of the Swarm, and now I'm heading up production for Heroes of the Storm.
Okay, great. So now step into the interview. First question, do you have a plan to add customization features that have an impact also on the game balance once again, like the artifacts?
So artifacts are kind of something that we try all the time. I think usually we're doing those behind closed doors. We try things all the time at Blizzard. Heroes is pretty unique because we've invited people into our technical alpha to help us test a really early version of the game. So they get to see us try things like artifacts that sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. We had goals for artifacts, which included adding additional layers of customization like later in the game. You know, the artifacts as implemented turned on at level 15, and it gave you ways that you could adjust the stats of your heroes. We heard a lot of feedback that wasn't a good thing. They didn't like the power difference we were introducing. They wanted a level playing field. We agreed with some of those concerns, but once we tested it with our players, we quickly came to the conclusion that those fears were true and that it wasn't a great thing for the game. So we removed artifacts after about a week of testing. We don't have a current plan to bring something else in replacement of them, although the framework of artifacts, which is that there are these slots that you could have and you could put things into, that still exists on the technology side. So I think in the future we'll look for other ways to bring in interesting content that doesn't introduce these balance problems or the power problems that artifacts did. But I think the important message of artifacts is that the game is in alpha. It's really early. We're going to try things. Sometimes they're great, sometimes they're not, and I think our audience should bear with us and help us figure out what works and what doesn't.
Yes, I played also with artifacts, and while I was quite OP with, I think, 55% of lifesteal, it was quite heavy to kill her.
Sure. Was that with Vala?
Yes, with Vala.
Right. Yep. There were definitely some balance problems, but even outside of the balance problems, there were other issues that we had to deal with.
Okay. Great. So next questions. Are you planning to allow players to move UI elements around and to resize it maybe so they can move the minimap to another location or make it something bigger?
Sure. We redesigned our HUD, our in-game UI, a few patches ago. And initially what we did was we started with it as big as possible. It was gigantic. And we knew there would be problems, but we wanted to try it. Like if we start small, it's really hard to get bigger, but it's easy to kind of shrink it, right? So we tried it really big. We had problems too. People were right-clicking on the mini-map and dying. I did that myself quite a bit. So what we did is now is we resized them. They're a lot smaller. We think we're hearing, my experience is that I'm not misclicking on the mini-map nearly as much or at all really anymore. But our immediate plans are not to introduce like a custom UI scale, like World of Warcraft has UI scaling and things like that. We're not going to do that immediately. It may be something we talk about in the future, but we hope that we've already scaled it enough that it's not problematic for people. But we're listening to feedback, and we will continue to do so as we move forward in our testing.
Okay, and what do you think about unit frames? Because often I hear some questions about unit frames, especially from the supporters, because it would be a lot easier to heal the heroes which are low life, because they don't have to move the mouse over the hero and then don't miss clicking and clicking on the minion or something like that.
So we're thinking like a party frames where you can see your allies and you can cast spells on them. So we've talked about that. It may be something we explore in the future. Right now, again, we're in a really early phase of development. We have a lot of work to do just to stand up the core gameplay. I think that if that's something we continue to hear feedback on, we will definitely explore it, but it's not something that is immediately coming into the alpha for testing.
So, and last question from the customization, will there be more purchasable customization features like skins or mounts in the future?
Absolutely. So skins are something that we're having a lot of fun with at Blizzard. The art team is going completely crazy with them. They basically are doing everything from totally silly skins to really epic skins. We're doing crossover skins where StarCraft things are going into Warcraft, and Diablo things are getting StarCraft things. So I think we're having a lot of fun, and the whole idea of this game really is about choice for players. Like, we want you to have a choice of different heroes that you can play from different IPs with different levels of complexity and different roles, and skins are just a whole other layer on that of like, what do you want them to look like? How do you know, what's your aesthetic that you really want to have out there? So you know, as we move forward, I think what we'll do is each hero will get skins of different themes, really, right? So from the silly to the epic, and even though right now some heroes might have a more silly version or less or whatever, in time you'll see us add the variety across all heroes, and that's something we're really excited about. I think on the art and design side, it's so cool to be able to say, hey, it's the Nexus, anything goes. We can do crossover skins. Stitches can be in a bikini. Like, let's do it, right? It's pretty fun. We're having a good time with it.
Or Nova with rollerblades.
Right, rollerblades Nova.
So next point is the.
Okay, I have questions from the content section. First, I want to know if you plan to add more other play modes other than the current one to the game, in which you just push the lanes and do the objectives to win the game and destroy the enemy's core, like something, for example, 3 vs 3 or 8 vs 8, or even if you like other objective modes where you try to capture and hold points, like we saw that in World of Warcraft with Arathi Basin, or yeah, maybe like Capture the Flag, which was in Wasson Gulch.
So absolutely. So the whole idea of Battlegrounds for us is kind of carrying over what we've learned from Warcraft 3 and StarCraft, which is multiple maps, we think, provide multiple strategic options for people. It changes the game up a lot. So right now we have 5 Battlegrounds. They all have really unique objectives on them. They are intentionally very, you know, they're twists on the core mechanics. You know, there are lanes, there are minions. You're trying to destroy the core. In time, we definitely will introduce a lot more Battlegrounds, and we will go crazier and crazier with the types of Battlegrounds that we introduce. So I totally hear you on the Arathi Basin side. Obviously, the reason we're calling them Battlegrounds is kind of an homage to World of Warcraft. We're big fans of the Battlegrounds in WoW, and we like what they do to the game. We like that you can have a character that you play all the time, but that taking them to different Battlegrounds, you really get to experience them in a whole new light. So that's totally the inspiration for our Battlegrounds. I think, yeah, in time, you'll see us do all kinds of stuff. We're going to bring in all the Blizzard franchises. You'll see Diablo worlds and StarCraft worlds, Warcraft worlds that come in, and anything is possible in the Nexus. So any gameplay mode you can imagine, we could explore with our Battlegrounds.
That's great to hear. Next question, also regarding maps. In StarCraft 2, when you go play in the matchmaking ranked, you have a veto system where you can out-veto maps you don't like. Do you plan something like that for Heroes of the Storm, maybe ranked mode as well?
Yeah, so currently in the alpha, we have practice mode, which is just you against AI with AI allies. We have co-op, which is you with real people against AI. And then we have versus, which is PvP, straight up all humans versus humans. We definitely are going to build a ranked mode. It's in development right now. It'll get layered into the alpha at a later date. I think that the important thing is that we're going to keep adding all kinds of stuff to this game, right? So ranked mode is, we don't have all the details that we're willing to talk about right now, but we'll definitely consider like draft mode will be a part of it. There may be a veto system. Like you said, we have it in StarCraft. We like the way it works there. Although we do kind of like in Heroes the variety and the uncertainty of the maps, and having a little bit of unpredictability with the way a map is selected is kind of fun. Like, we like that as a player, as a team, you have to adapt to that. You have to be prepared for anything, and you got to see how the cards are dealt, and see what you can make of it. So I think as we get deeper in this, you'll see what we do with it. We're open to input, so we'll be listening to the community as we do that, but expect us to explore many options along those lines.
Okay, perhaps you have a number in your head, like to tell us what is probably the amount of heroes you would like to have when the game will be released after all.
Yeah, so there is not a specific number in our heads. We are definitely looking at this as quality over quantity. So each hero we really want to be unique. Obviously, we're pulling characters from 20 years of Blizzard history of all these games and IPs and lore that we have. So every character really has to speak to that history. As if you're someone who knows and is familiar with the character, when you come in to play them, they should really feel true to who that character is and who we've, as we've shown them in the past. So there's a bunch of work involved in doing that. I think there's also another side of that, which is that we want a lot of variety and choice in them. So we have talents as a layer on top of that, where players can choose to choose talents that change the way that hero plays. So while their core kit might be something that you totally expect, you might find talents that really change them up and change the way that they play. I think we'll continue to look for opportunities to do that, to strike that balance between familiarity and something new. Yeah, I think I'm missing part of your question though. Is that? Yeah. So as part of that quality though, so talents really are a lot more work for us, right? Instead of just making QWER, we do QWER. We have 2 R's right now, and then talents, which is a whole bunch of work on top of it. So right now we have 28 heroes in the game. We're showing 3 more here at Gamescom. So we have Chen and Nubrak and Azmodan that were added to the game just for Gamescom. We're going to keep adding more. We want that variety. We want them to be different levels of difficulty and complexity. You know, we have things like a specialist like Abathur, who's a crazy character, unlike anything you've seen probably in any game before, where he sits back in the base and all his abilities are cast through his allies. So we want that. We want that extreme. We also want a character that's really familiar and seems like an assassin that you might have played before and you're familiar with it. It's comfortable for you. We want to just keep introducing more options that give you a choice across the IPs, across the difficulty, and across the roles in the game. But yeah, no number. We'll just keep adding them as they feel good to us, really.
Okay, nice. Last question from the content department. Do you have plans to add something like a surrender option to the game? Like playing lots of Heroes games, you have like maybe two people who go AFK or leave the game and don't return. So like something like, yeah, when you can surrender.
Sure. So we've discussed this internally. We have people internally who have asked us for this. One of the things about the game that we really strive for is that we want to have opportunities to come back. I think that's pretty important to us. The map mechanics are actually a really big part of that, where even if you're a couple levels behind, we want there to be ways that if you make the right decisions and if you counter your opponents in the right way, that it's not really over. And so right now we're trying to just stick to it. We don't want to add a surrender mode right now because we'd like you to give it a shot. Like we'd like you to really, as a team, pull together and try to overcome this, because there are options and they're meaningful and they could change the way the battle's going. I think part of why we think we can do that is because our game length is intentionally very short. The games are 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes maybe. Like a really long game might be 30 minutes, where normally in this genre you'll be playing for 45 minutes or an hour. So we've already tried to speed it up. So we feel like, let's try to do this. Let's try to support comeback mechanics. And if we do our jobs right, I think you always have an option, and there should be very little of a need for actually just surrendering. Like surrendering to us is kind of giving up at this point. We don't want to give up on the design, and we hope that you guys don't give up on the gameplay.
Okay, returning to the ranked play, you've just told us that you are testing ranked play internally or thinking about it. Are you testing different approaches about the draft mode, for example, or are you just figuring out ideas and deal with them at a later point in the alpha or in the development?
So we've been talking about ranked play for a really long time. It's something that we knew from the very beginning we had to have, but it wasn't critical for us to begin the alpha testing process. Because honestly, to do ranked play right, you need a really big audience of people who are at the level that they can participate in it. So currently our audience is relatively small, and there's not a lot of people who really honestly could participate. But there's a lot of ideas floating around. At this point, we think we want draft mode. We're developing it with draft mode in mind. If that doesn't work out, or if we have a better idea or something else that feels good to us, we're totally going to explore it. I think what you can expect to see in the alpha when we do bring ranked play online is that it's going to be a work in progress. We'll probably try something. We'll ask our players to participate in it. We'll see how it goes. We may pull it. We might change it. We might do a 180 on it. There's a whole bunch of stuff that could happen, and we're kind of asking people to come along the ride with us for that and help us figure out what feels good for this game. We got a ways to go, and again, it's not in a state where we're going to bring it into the game immediately, but we are actively working on it.
All right, thanks. And how does your matchmaking rating system work? Does it include the player's own performance or just the team's overall performance in the game?
So there are matchmaking rules in effect right now in the alpha. They are honestly the beginnings of our matchmaking rule set. They are taking into account your individual matchmaking rating, which is looking at your win-loss ratio against all games that you played. it also is going to consider your win-loss ratio with the specific hero that you're currently queued with. So, you know, if you play one hero as your main and you have a really high win ratio, and now you try a new hero and you haven't played it much or you've been losing with it, it's not like you're going to get matched as if you were the awesome person playing your normal hero. We're also looking then at your cumulative matchmaking rating for your entire team. So if you queue as a team, we're going to look at that as a whole. If you queue as a single person and a pug or whatever, if you're just solo queuing, we're going to figure that out as in order to put a good team together with you in it. The rules that we have today, though, are just kind of the beginning steps of what we're trying to do with that. So, and also because our audience is so small, the matchmaker actually has to have fallbacks right now where based on the amount of time you've been in queue, we get less and less stringent with the rule set. So while at first we might say, yes, we absolutely, I know what your matchmaking rating is. Let's get someone of similar skill. After a couple minutes in the queue, now we go, okay, forget that. Let's get you in a game. Let's play. Let's have fun. Let's test, right? So as the audience grows, as we have a bigger matchmaking pool, I think we'll be able to really start dialing in all those knobs of all the various features that we're considering. But I think we have the beginnings of it. It's already pretty good, and it will get a lot better in time.
Thanks for that amazing answer. Okay, now I have one question about the custom games and the editor. Do you have any updates for us or for the modding community about them? And how will the fun map system work? You have the StarCraft 2 Arcade that is free to play, and you might have fun maps in Heroes 2. Will you use two separate systems that maybe compete against each other? Or will you use one new merged environment?
Are you seeing merged environment like across StarCraft and Heroes? Or?
The editor allows you to create completely new games, basically, and the way the player access it is then, will you create one single platform for fun maps, or will you keep StarCraft 2 Arcade and keep Heroes of the Storm fun map, because they both would compete against each other?
Okay. So first, I don't have a lot of updates on our custom maps and when we're bringing it into the game. I will continue to confirm that we are totally going to do that. We're obviously really excited about it. This entire genre spawned out of custom maps made by Blizzard players in StarCraft and Warcraft 3. So it's kind of this really cool full circle thing of like, the genre came from Blizzard players in their custom maps, and now we're going to make our own version of that game and give them an editor so they can make custom maps. So it's pretty exciting to think of what the community is going to do when they can make maps for this game now. So we're thinking about it. We're working on it. It will come later on, not in our alpha phase, probably in beta or beyond, but we're totally going to do it. As far as how we're going to treat, you know, where the maps go and stuff, right now there are no plans to combine the StarCraft 2 arcade with the Heroes one. We would probably keep them separate and kind of make like a delineation between the different types of games and the rule sets across them. But you know, we love that the arcade's there in StarCraft. It's free to play right now for everybody, so if people haven't checked it out, you can, even if you don't own StarCraft, you can go play the arcade today and check out all the amazing maps that the community makes there. So that's, I love that, and I'm excited to get Heroes to a point where we can see what they want to make for it as well.
All right, thanks. Which hero do you hate most?
Do I hate most? So I love them all when I'm playing them. When they are on the opposite team and they're kicking my butt, they're heroes. Right now, Sergeant Hammer annoys me unless I'm playing Stitches and I can deal with her. I mean, Sergeant Hammer, you know, is a siege tank, and she sits there and she has a very long range. And if she's being supported by her allies, she just destroys stuff. It's something that we're looking at on the balance side. I think we've already made a couple tweaks, but we'll keep looking at it. It's hard to counter her right now unless you have somebody like Stitches that can pull her out of combat and kill her. But I don't know. I think there's other situations where if I'm playing against a team and they have a Lily or a really good Brightwing or a really good Abathur, you know, having players excel at those characters who are about map awareness and about being everywhere at every moment, and that second where you think you have somebody, you're about to kill him, and then Brightwing jumps in and saves him, or Abathur jumps in and shields him and kills you, and you're like, what? So I love that. I love the tension of that, but I don't hate them. I just sometimes am irritated they're not on my team instead of the other team.
Okay, 2 last questions. Each of us has one. So also a fun question, which might sound a little bit strange. How would your hero look like if you could give him every ability you want and don't have to care about balance, size, etc.? No rules.
Yeah, that sounds like Crazy Town. It sounds kind of fun. It sounds like a really good thing to do in a custom map when we have our editor available. So I'm sure in time we will figure that out. And I think that might be one of the first things people do when they get our editor is go make.
No, but how would your hero
Oh, how would mine?
Yeah.
Man. So I'm a producer, not a designer. I admit that I am someone who enjoys playing the game, and I'm certainly not the person who should be designing it. But I don't know. I think right now we're doing a really good job with the diversity in heroes. I have heroes that I fall in love with. I'm a really aggressive player. I like Kerrigan because I like to jump into combat, I like to tear stuff up, and then I die because that's just Kerrigan's pretty squishy when she's in the mix. She doesn't have a support there to save her butt. But yeah, I mean, I don't have some magic answer to that. I think besides you guys should show us what kind of crazy stuff you want to do.